A real pleasure to welcome onto the program Greg McNeil. He is a partner at North Star Public Affairs. Have I got that right, Greg?
You've got it right.
Awesome.
Got it right. Thank you for having me.
You're also, for your sins, someone who's had a long-standing interest in Canadian defense policy, and you wrote a great piece for us in the Hub today. I want to throw up on the quote board here your words. I think they're ones we should focus on. Quote, Canada has treated its NATO commitments as aspirational rather than an obligation. That era is over. And Greg, let's have you give some analysis to this chart because it's really at the core of your argument here. NATO defense spending as a percentage of real GDP. Greg, I got to go way down that list to find Canada at
Yeah.
1.4%. So before we get to the great solutions that you outlined in your piece, let's talk about the problem. Why are we so far down that list?
Gosh, I mean, there's a lot of reasons behind it. I think part of it is just a willingness to actually prioritize defense over some of the other priorities that we have. You know, that list, I think it said we had 1.5% of GDP, and that's nothing to be ashamed of on one hand. Like in real dollars, that's actually a lot of money. We'd be at the top end of all of NATO in terms of actual dollars spent each year on defense, and we have increased our defense spending over the last number of years. However, we've made commitments to our allies for God, going back several years now, saying that we will meet that 2% commitment. That's not it's a promise that we've made, and we haven't kept it yet. Now it's great to see that all parties seem to be more committed to reaching that target than ever before. Uh, but we're still a number of years out from actually doing it. Even if we were to say today, we're going to spend 2% this year, that would be a pretty tough target for us to reach this year.
Yeah.
And that's for a whole bunch of different reasons, process being one of them. And I talk a little bit about that in my piece.
Yeah, so one of the key aspects of this Trump trade threat has been a requirement that Canada bring its defense spending up to 2%. You've provided in the Hub today an article that says here is, in a sense, a memorandum to cabinet, so to speak, hypothetical direction for the government to achieve a 2% of GDP spend on defense in the first 100 days of a new government. So, in broad strokes, Greg, how do we make that jump, and how do we do it quickly, as you're suggesting we might be able to?
Well, in the broadest of strokes, I think it really kind of comes down to two things. Um, the first is around accountability. One of the big policy ideas that's been kicking around the Canadian defense world for a while has been this idea of a single point of accountability, having one throat to choke, so to speak, somebody who can actually make decisions or is empowered to make decisions and is held accountable when those decisions go right or wrong. Um, what I'm trying to get across in the article I wrote today is that that single point of accountability should be the prime minister, frankly. And that's one of the things I've kind of learned over the last few years is that if the prime minister doesn't make this a top five issue for themselves or a top three issue for themselves, it's probably not going to get the attention it deserves around the cabinet table. I mean, there are a lot of competing issues, as you know, in government. Um, Someone that can decide whether this wins over another issue, it's probably going to be the prime minister that does it. The other piece, obviously, is it just can't be business as usual. We have a number of procurement processes in place that prevent speedy decisions to be made. And a lot of the time, we'll commit money to a particular project, but we don't actually spend that money in a given year. And part of that is because of some of the checks and balances that we've put in place. And, those are put in place for good reason. But, frankly, the urgency that we have on us right now is unprecedented, and we're probably going to have to move faster than we usually go.
Greg, one of the big issues, obviously, that's been a stumbling block is procurement, the extent to which we can actually get large pieces of military kit through our procurement process. Do you have any thoughts as to how that could be streamlined, while at the same time acknowledging that we have a procurement process for a reason, because we want to avoid abuse, we want to avoid paying
Mhm.
too much. There's lots of good things that procurement could and should do, but it seems, Greg, certainly to have become really bogged down over the last number of years under the current government.
Yeah, and I would argue that it's been a problem for a lot longer than this government.
Fair
Frankly,
enough. Yeah.
it goes back decades. But I will say that one of the things we should probably avoid doing as a country is we get into these situations where we have to speed up a procurement because of urgent operational requirements. You know, the Afghanistan war comes to mind. We didn't have the proper equipment in place. We had to do a lot of rush spending, and those were there was a good reason to do it at the time. Um, but I think if we had a little bit more of a longer vision of how we can set things up in the future, we can avoid doing those last minute requests, last minute spending sprees, and try to set something up so that we have our own domestic capabilities, that we can actually uh, rely a little bit more on ourselves than having to do that last minute push.
And Greg, what is the potential here to have a win-win where, we surge to 2%, we do it quickly, and it has some positive economic knock-ons for the country as a whole when, let's say, we're dealing with a real and urgent kind of tariff, not simply threat, but reality. And this could come. We all know the 30-day deadline is going to run out March 3rd. We could be in this quite
Yeah.
fast. What could you see as like an economic overlay to this? Is there a way for us to source this spend inside Canada, or is that going to be a challenge? If we want to move quickly to reach this target, are we going to have to look to other economies, other governments to provide the necessary military equipment and other services to reach that 2% target?
Well, I certainly don't think we could do it all ourselves. We're going to have to go offshore to get some of this equipment. I mean, that's probably the hard truth in the short term. Now, fortunately, we have made some strategic investments, and an example being the National Shipbuilding Strategy that was set up by the Harper government. It seems way back in 2011. A lot has happened over that more than 10 years, I guess. I guess it's close to 14 or 15 now, where we have done that hard work, and that program is now starting to bear fruit. And I think we should continue making those investments, and we've done the right thing by sort of fostering that sovereign capability. Another one that comes to mind is the Lav factory in London, Ontario, where we're building equipment for the Army. We have a munition supply program that's currently that probably needs a little bit of a relook to see what we can do to kind of make sure that we have the proper stockpiles of munitions. But outside of that, I mean, there's lots of different things that we can be doing offshore. I mean, in the short term, that would probably be a necessary solution. The submarine program comes to mind, where that's probably not something that we're going to build here in Canada. We're probably going to have to partner with a European country on that. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question,
No,
Richard,
it's
but that's
certainly
kind of
helpful. Yeah.
what I'd get at. I'd say that the way I would look at it is we would have to figure out what it is we have to do with the United States and our European partners, and what can we do here at home.
Yeah. Well, Greg McNeil, thank you for writing in the Hub today. Viewers can check out Greg's piece right now at www.thehub.ca. A 100 days plan, a whole of government approach to meeting our NATO target, potentially a key factor, Greg, in either thwarting and staving off a tariff fight, or if we get into one, maybe it could be one of the off-ramps to de-escalate and head hopefully towards some kind of more reasonable negotiation on the trade front with the United States. So Greg McNeil, thank you so much for coming on the program today.
Thanks for having me.
That was Greg McNeil, partner at North Star Public Affairs. Again, check out Greg's piece in the Hub today, www.thehub.ca. Thanks for watching Trump's Trade War. We'll get these videos to you each and every day featuring our best thinkers and writers. I hope you've enjoyed this program. Subscribe if you like the channel and you like the videos. We'll keep them coming as long as you keep watching. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.